How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Sound like I haven't seen you in a minute.
I know it's been a while with all this
Yeah.
traveling.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good thing. To be absent for
Yeah,
because you've been traveling, that's a good thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Where
So,
you got? Where you guys been?
well, I went on a girls' trip. I flew to St. Louis, and then
Uh,
we did a road trip to Nashville, Tennessee, and then we stayed overnight there. And then we did a road trip to uh, Panama City Beach, Florida, and stayed there for a week.
oh, okay. Why is
And
view like
right
this?
off the beach.
There we go. Okay, that's better. All right. How's my
Yeah,
lighting? It seems a little dark on my end. It look a
it,
little
it
dark.
does. It does look a little dark in your background.
It look a little dark. Okay. I don't know what I did. What I did with different with the lighting. All right. Well, it's good to see you nonetheless.
Absolutely.
Did you enjoy your Juneteenth?
I
Oh,
didn't do
which
anything
reminds
because
me, we missed y'all.
I just flew back home that
Oh,
morning,
okay.
and then I had to go to choir rehearsal because I was getting ready for our convention this week. So I was doing a women's chorus choir rehearsal, so I had to go to church that afternoon, and then come home and cook macaroni and cheese for church for Father's Day the next day.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. Yeah, it
I
sounded
didn't
like you had a lot
have
going on.
I wanted to stop by, and I didn't have no time to do it.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I definitely didn't forget.
yeah, you missed a heck of a party. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I had to plan better for next time.
Yeah, you missed a heck of a party. Yeah,
Yeah.
we missed y'all. Unfortunately, our guest that was supposed to come on today, they had a death in the family, so they had to reschedule. So, definitely our
All
prayers
right.
go out to them and their family for their loss.
For sure.
Yeah. So I didn't want to, reschedule or cancel because we want to stay consistent for our audience and things like that. So what I really wanted to talk to you about was the reluctant partner. And what I mean is the person that you're with who doesn't want to get married, or maybe you're the person who you're with someone who wants to get married and you don't want to get married. Let me see if I can turn this
Okay.
lighting up a little bit. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Is that better? It looks a little
I
better.
think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
it
it look
looks
a
a
little
little
bit
better
better.
on my
Yeah.
end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, what I wanted to talk about was the reluctant partner. Like I've ran across I know a few people who are in long-term relationships and the person they're with doesn't want to get married. I think I got a cousin who she said she don't want to get married, and I believe the person she with wants to get married. So have you counseled? I'm sorry, before I get started, why don't you go ahead and give us your credentials? Like tell us who you are, and just in case we have any new members or new guests who's come on and don't know anything about you.
Okay. Well, I'm Gricelda Ramsey. I'm a licensed master social worker, and I currently own and am the senior clinician at Life Changing Therapeutic Services, which is a virtual private practice. And so I have over 20 years of experience with counseling, um, especially doing couples and marriage counseling, as well as counseling with men and women and children, even though I don't see children anymore personally. I have quite a few years of experiences with the family and individuals. So
Okay. Well, y'all,
thank you
she
for
is a
having me
right.
again.
She is official, so we make sure we get the good quality people on the show. So again, thank you, Griselda, for that. And if people wanted to reach you, how would they reach you?
I can be reached via email at lifechangingtherapeutic@gmail.com, or I can be reached at 248-242-5321. You can also go through Life Changing Therapeutic Facebook page and book appointments or send a message, and also through Instagram, which is lifechangingtherapeutic.gr. And that's my Instagram page. So I can be reached on any of those entities with appointments set up on any of those entities also.
So you by appointment only?
Yes. So
Okay.
you make an inquiry to either schedule an appointment. I do give 15-minute consultations because it's important to make sure it's a good fit for the client as well as for me
Okay.
as a therapist, making sure that I can meet their needs that they currently have. So I
Okay.
do offer those 15-minute consultations also.
All right. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the you told me that you also take insurance, right?
Yes, I take insurances, most insurances, as well as private pay.
Okay. All right. All right. Great. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. So I want to talk about the reluctant partner. I was thinking about it. That's the only title I could come up with, the reluctant partner, because
I think
you
it's a
know,
great title. I like that.
well, thank you. You have people who are in long-term relationships, and one person wants to get married, the other one doesn't. Now, there's nothing wrong with the relationships, at least from what they conversations I've had with people who I know that are in these relationships, except somebody wants to get married and the other one doesn't. What do you have you counseled couples like that? Have you had people come to you with that issue?
Well, yeah, I actually did counsel a couple, a younger couple in their 30s. I think about a year ago, and they had been together going on 13 years when I started. Well, going on 12 years, and I was working with them about a year at that time. And they had two children, and you know, and I think for them it was more so a fear of getting married. I don't know why when you kind of like living as husband and wife, but it was for them, I think, more of a fear of getting married. So, or
So
not thinking it was necessary at that point,
so they neither one of them wanted to get married?
No, neither one of them pushed the envelope. When I asked the question, it was just like, we just haven't, or, you know, yeah,
So
they just,
why did they come see you?
well, I think initially she was coming to see me individually, and then I started working with both of them, but they were having some serious communication issues. And then there was trauma from her, that was, causing some other issues for her in the relationship. So, we kind of worked through a whole lot of stuff. And for her, she, started to build her confidence, and started to be more assertive, started to be, because she was a stay-at-home mom and he worked, took care of them. By that time she started going to school for nursing, and started really just kind of finding her way. And so
Okay.
I think that in turn, and also even suggesting to him that he gets into therapy because he had a lot of other things that he needs to work through also. And
Okay.
I think in turn that finally kind of just helped them out a lot, you know.
Okay. They're still
So
together?
yeah, they're still together. They're still not
Awesome.
married, but they're still
Awesome. But they're
together.
still
So
together.
yeah,
Okay.
yes, yes.
You didn't mark that as a failure on your end, did you?
No,
Okay.
actually, for the most part, most of the clients that come to me, I can say honestly, and thanking God really, um, that I've had, a 97% success rate really with my couples that I counsel. I've
Okay.
had maybe two or three couples that didn't stay together, and one of them was actually, she was already out the door when he came to therapy. He wanted
Hmm.
therapy, but she had wanted it 2 years before that. So by
Hmm.
the time he decided to come, and that's what I always say, when I get a call from a husband to initiate therapy, that's because the wife is getting ready to leave in the first place.
Ooh.
And she's
Ooh.
always told him that they needed counseling for 1 or 2 years. He's refused it, saying, I don't have a problem. You got a problem. You go to therapy. And by the time he calls me, they're in trouble.
Wow.
So this lady was already had rented a home and everything, and she was getting ready to leave. So,
You were able
and
to
then the other,
were you
no,
able
I
to
what
bring them
I
back
did
together?
was no. At that point, she was not coming back. What
Okay.
I did was, she wasn't going to tell him though. When I told her, I always say to couples, when we're meeting, I need to make sure we're always on the same page. At some point, something is I need to know, because I don't want to be working toward one goal and we're on another page here. So
Hmm.
I did have her. I had to ask her because I got a sense that she was making a transition, and I asked her to see me for a few minutes, and I asked her, and then I said, hey, you have to tell him. We can't be letting him come here thinking he's working through some things to stay together, and you already rented you a home, you already out the door. And
Oh
so
yeah.
she did tell him. Of course, he blew up in the session. He was very angry. He was kind of very a verbally aggressive type of guy in the first place.
Hmm.
Uh, and so, at that point, she felt for her sanity, she needed to do what she needed to do.
Yeah.
So that I didn't even count that as a failure, because that's where she was when she came in.
Okay.
So, so the other couples, it was in their best interest. I don't promote divorce, and as much as I can, I try to keep people together if they want to be together. But sometimes it's in people's best interest to not be together.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But when you
that's what I
have
would have to say. Yeah, about a
yeah,
97%.
well, but that's good. That's really good. But
Yeah.
when you get couples, generally, who is it that doesn't want to get married?
It just depends. So a lot of times I had this discussion with my husband when you told me about it. But sometimes women have a fear, which is strange. They'll have a fear of getting married to a man because they've seen no successful relationships in their family, or they've seen the women in their family be constantly cheated on by men, but they'll stay with a man for years under those same circumstances, but just won't marry him. So
Wow,
that's the strange part. And so sometimes people have
that's a
such a distrust
that's a
for the
weird phenomenon.
it is, but it happens a lot. And a lot
Okay,
of women have a distrust for the sanctity of marriage. And really in our times we're in now, where marriage and God and all that was so valued is not as valued anymore. So people
okay,
feel it's not necessary to get married now. And then when you have men, sometimes they don't want to be tied down. They don't want to be attached. They may have some trust issues also. They don't want to share their money with another woman. If she leave me, I don't want her to take my money. So it's a lot of things behind that. And sometimes for men, they're not done playing. But I've heard men say to me that a man will know pretty quickly if he gets with a woman and he wants to marry her.
this
He
is true.
kind of determines that pretty quick. I've heard several men say that to me,
This is true. I
or in
agree with that.
conversation.
Yeah,
Okay, so you agree with that also?
yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think like I've said that I believe 2 years is more than enough time to decide what you want to do. If you want to move forward. To me, after 2 years, you're pretty much probably just stringing the person along and but on the flip side of that, I do know a couple couples who are fine. Well, what do we call shacking up? That's what we call it. It's
Yes,
the
yes,
old school
yes, yes,
term,
yes,
shacking
yes,
up. I don't know what they
yes.
call it now, but the old school term, shacking up, that are fine with it. Nobody wants to get married, and they're absolutely fine. But when you have that dynamic where one person wants to get married, actually, and then I'm looking at it like their relationship is fine. That is the only sticking point. That one person wants to get married, the other one don't. And I guess the pushback is why everything is fine. Why do we have to get
Mm-hmm.
married? And what are you generally? I think you kind of mentioned this already, but I want if you could just reiterate it. When you get couples like that, is there other underlying issues as to why one or the other, the person doesn't want to get married? Like,
Yeah, I think it's fear. Sometimes, my former pastor used to say, a man gets a license for his motorcycle, a man gets a license for his car, a man gets a license for fishing, but he won't get a license to put with that woman, a license for that woman.
mm-hmm,
And what we tend to do, where we mess up, is we allow that. We allow a man to get all the benefits of being a wife without being a wife, and that's our fault. And I think a lot of times, if you tell a man you want to be married, you don't want to keep living like this. Some women, get God in their life and they want to change those dynamics. But as long as you stay in that relationship, even though you're telling this man this is not what you want, what's the incentive for him to move on anything? Because he's already getting what he wants. And while you're complaining and having an issue with it, you're not moving either. So why
mm-hmm,
should he move? Because you're not moving. To
right.
me, I agree with you. I think, and I 3 years at the max, and that's my husband and I, we started officially dating in October and got engaged in February. So
Okay.
we've been married in a few weeks 17 years. So
Okay.
it didn't take all that for us because number one, it was both of our second marriage and we were a lot more mature. And so to me, I think you fairly know. Give it a year. Even for us, that was pretty quick,
Okay.
on regular standards. But it depends on your age and where you are in your life also too. But outside of that, you should at least give it a year or two. And that by that time, I agree, you should know. And if you don't know, if you truly want to be married and you're with this man or woman who don't want to be married, then you should not continue to stay in a relationship where you're not getting what you want out of a relationship. I don't care whether it's marriage, whether it's financial security, whether it's children and you want children, whatever it is, if you're in a relationship and you're not getting your needs met, then you should know you should not continue to remain in that relationship and then be mad at your partner because he's not doing what you wanted to do, but you're continuing to stay there, which is telling him or her, we're okay, we're good.
Right, right, right,
You can't
right.
expect somebody to behave differently when you're not behaving differently.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. What when you counsel couples that come in, do you find out the fact that they is the reason they come is because one person wants to get married, or is there other issues, and then you find that out that's just like an added incentive as to why they may have come? You know what I'm saying? When they come to you, is that the reason they call you because of that, or is it they call you because it was something else?
Now I have had a couple, ironically, I've had in this past year of between 2020 and now, I ironically have had about 3 or 4 couples come to me who were divorced and wanted to see if they can get back together. They
Ooh,
wanted to see if they can resolve the issues. They were either divorced or they and
separated.
I think a couple more that had dated for a while and then not dating and wanted to get back together. But I actually had a few couples that were divorced and wanted to see if they can get back together and resolve the issues of the past, which
That
was very
caused them to get
strange.
divorced in the first place.
Yes, and see if
Okay.
they can work through some of that pain that they've gone through and that hurt to try to be together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was ironic. But I've had couples come to me generally because of other issues. And one of them could be, this is why we can't get married because we got all these other, I don't want to marry her because we can't even communicate. I don't want to marry him because he's not responsible. He doesn't, do what he's supposed to do. He doesn't hold up his end as a man. So I don't want to get married. That they may want to get married, but they're not going to get married because these other issues are so prevalent. So that's generally kind of how it goes.
But they still stay
Um,
with the person.
and they still stay with the person. They try to work, at that time they come to me, they're trying to really like, this is it. Like we're gonna either figure this out or we just not gonna be together.
Okay.
But the sad thing is some people, even after that, they'll still stay in a relationship because some people it's just hard for them to be alone. It's like, this is the hell that I know. So I'll stay with the hell that I know, even though I'm not getting my needs met. We have a family member, it's my husband's cousin. She and her guy have been together over 40 years and not married.
Did
Yes.
anybody want to get married?
They were going to get married at one point, and then like it was like they were going to be planning it, and it didn't. That's since we've been together, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. In the beginning, years ago, before I came into the family, probably so, but I don't know. And he's talked to them about it on several occasions. They even broke up recently because within his last 10 years, they had broken up because they didn't get married, but now I think they're back together. So yeah, they've been together
40
over 40 years.
years?
Yes, yes, over 40 years. And you invest that kind of time in somebody, and it's not, don't get me wrong, it's not about money or anything. But when you invest that kind of time in somebody, you have nothing coming. If they get sick, unless they put you down as their medical power of attorney, you can't make no decisions. When they get sick, their kids can come in, and if they pass away, put you out of everything because you're not the next of kin. You don't have entitlement to Social Security. You don't have any benefits that a wife would get, but you have, or a husband would get, but you have spent your entire life as a wife or a husband to a person who did not see fit to make you his wife or you his husband, their husband.
Yeah. And my mom, speaking personally, my mom is kind of in a situation like that. Like she's been with this man. I forget how long her and dad been together a long time. My dad, her and my dad had been divorced a while, and then she got married again to my younger brother and sister's father. And so I was telling her, I was like, Mama, he's a veteran, so he has pretty good insurance. And I'm like, Mama, you literally, you don't have anything coming. So I got a friend of mine who works down at works for the Veterans Administration. So I had her to kind of, dig into it a little bit. But because I want to say I can't remember. It was something that happened that caused that, like she couldn't get on his insurance or none of that stuff because they wasn't married. And then there was a, like, my stepfather or my bonus dad, like, I don't know if there was a official divorce. I don't even know. I just come to find out a couple of days ago, they don't even know if they officially got married. Nobody turned in the marriage license. So we don't know if she was officially married to my bonus dad or not. It's like, but to
So
your
the bonus dad was your sibling's father was
my
your
younger
bonus dad.
sibling's dad, yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
And so,
Wow.
but they're still, my bonus dad and my mom are still cool. But she's been with her common law husband for a long time. But my mom is ailing; she's going through some things right now. But
Right,
she
right.
doesn't have it. To you, like you were just saying, if his kids come in, she don't have no stake in anything, nothing. And
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
so me and my brothers and sisters were talking, like, and because he's suffering from cancer as well. He has, he's going through chemo. Well, I think he was, but we were talking, and I was like, we got to find mama someplace to go, because one, she can't afford the place that they're currently in if he passes away before she does.
Hmm.
And I mean, they can't. I don't know why they haven't got married in all this time. Like, I mean, she's been with him forever, but there's nothing. Like, she has nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
if he passed away tomorrow, she would have to leave this apartment. It's a really nice apartment. She would have to leave, and then we would have to find her someplace else to stay, or she would have to come with one of us. But what do you
Hmm.
tell? I just what I want to ask you. So, what do you tell couples? Because some men are worried about the financial aspect. I don't want to, I don't want to do this. But to me, like, what is your advice to the couples when they bring up the financial piece of it? Like, I don't want to get married because if something happened and she not around. I mean, she leave and she can take all my money or take half my money. So, what is your advice? Because I know that's probably, maybe a sticking point or an excuse.
That I tell them the truth, because to me that's asinine. Like, I'm good enough to wash your clothes, cook your food, be here with you to support you, be intimate with you, all those things that I've done over these years as if I'm your wife, but you're worried about getting married to me legally and I take your money. And for older, now that behavior I see in older men who are in relationships long term, and at that point they're like stuck in their ways. They don't want to share their money. They don't want, or they want their kids to be able, I've heard people, like tell their dads, like, daddy don't, blah 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 with the money. Even like with my dad, I remember my dad dating this lady one time, and she told me that she was going to move here to Michigan with my dad, and I'm just in passing saying, oh wow, that's really brave of you to uproot your whole life to with a man you're not married to.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is a good guy in my opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
so next thing I know, she must have said something to my dad, and he had proposed to her. But when she got here, you know, I kind of had that position too, because she constantly talked to him about life insurance and taking our name off his life insurance. Now they weren't married yet or any of that, but
He's saying the near future.
she was writing my dad about taking our name off the life insurance and all these changes she wanted him to make, and they were not legally married yet. And I'm the oldest. To the point it got so bad, I told my dad to not even eat her cooking because something is not sounding right here. And
Right.
and she had like started ruminating on it daily, 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 harassing him about it.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, something's not right. So eventually, no, never, needless to say, he didn't marry her, and thankfully he did not. But a lot of older men, they have that position. My dad right now has been in a relationship with his girlfriend. I think they started dating in 2008 or nine, and they're still just dating. She lives in her house, he lives in his house. He goes to her house, and stays. She comes, but he has no interest in getting married, none.
Did he
And so,
communicate to that? Did he communicate that to her up front?
absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and she's been
At
married
your
before too, so I don't think she's talked about getting married either.
okay.
Yeah, she
Did you
retired from. Huh? Go
I
ahead.
was gonna ask what I was gonna ask you. Did you tell your dad, like, you need to make sure you establish that going in, or
Well, I
he
don't.
can do it on his own?
Going in, I don't really know if he was not open to marriage going in. Probably so after that last lady he was with, but at one point, like my dad and my mom has been divorced since I was about 3, 4, or 5-ish, somewhere around in there.
Uh-huh.
And at one point after that last lady that he was engaged to, and my dad has had 2 other wives since then. Both of them, one, my youngest sister's mother, they divorced, and then my stepmom, they were married until she passed away. So he has had 2 other wives beside my mother. My mother and
I
him
do
were
want to
like,
ask you, but can you hold that thought? Was that
yeah,
divorce, was it a bad divorce?
um,
Was it a,
probably so. Like back then with my dad, with my mother and my dad, you mean, or my
well, either one, the one with your mom and the one with your sister's mom.
Well, my mother and my dad were like 17 and 18 when they, my mother got pregnant with me, and my grandmother was old school, was like, she's pregnant, you're getting married. So it was
Right.
like a
Okay.
shotgun wedding. So needless to say, it didn't last very long. My dad was young and in the streets. My mother was a little bit more sheltered.
Uh-huh.
And so, they didn't stay married very long at all. By the time I said like I was 3, 4, or 5, my sister had come along after me.
Uh-huh.
They were not, but my dad has always loved my mother.
Okay.
And so they just never, I don't know, they may have at some point tried to work it out, but
Hmm.
unbeknownst to me. But when he married my youngest sister's mother, I think I was still a little girl. I was only about between maybe 8 and 11 or so when they got married,
Hmm.
or younger. I was younger than 11, and they stayed married a while, and then she ended up moving out of the state. They got a divorce, but it was contentious in both relationships because they were
Okay.
young. My stepmom and my dad, they were out in the streets, so it was, a lot of that going on. And then when he married my stepmom, you know he was a lot older then, but still, he didn't do everything right back then.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the reason
but
well the reason I,
yeah.
I asked those questions because um I think when you go through, especially like if I went through a very my first divorce wasn't like um it wasn't
Tumultuous.
bad. Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It wasn't tumultuous. It was just time. We had been separated, and I think I was getting into another relationship. So I was like, it's time for me to really at the insistence of the woman that I was with. She was like, well, you need to get, because I think me and her we were engaged. You like, you need to end that relationship. So because I don't know. I often ask myself, would I have gotten a divorce? I don't know. I would like to think that I would have eventually, but at her insistence, I went on ahead and filed the papers because we were thinking about taking our relationship to the next level. That didn't happen, but we were thinking about it. But I'm kind of glad I did. But the reason I was saying that is because um I think relationships, they can make you jaded. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have those bad breakups or divorces, like it can make you jaded. So could be one reason why, or man or woman could take that position. Like, I don't know if I want to get married again. Like, I don't want to go through this whole thing with the separation of property, finances. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. So I can
for
only
sure,
imagine
for
that.
sure.
I mean, I didn't have to go through that with my first wife, but I was just saying I can understand why that might be an issue, you know?
I agree. And the older you are when it happens, like there are women who, um, I've seen a woman before, you with this man 30 something years, and you decide, I'm getting divorced now. And they hadn't been happy in a long time. So, but they at that point felt like they can be free, they can be released from the relationship, but they hadn't been happy in years. And so when women go through stuff like that, they're not probably going to get married again. They may date.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with men. Like as they get so, like my dad's age, he at the age of his life, he come and go as he want. He do what he want to do. And they not trying to answer to nobody. Even if my dad were to get married, I think he would still live in his own house and they would live in their house, and he would be content. Now, at one point, he told me, I'm not marrying nobody else unless I marry your mother. And then my mother said, well, I guess he wanted to get married then. So, but they're really good friends. They had a very contentious relationship for years after their divorce, for
Oh,
years.
oh wow.
And around 2008, the same time he started dating this other lady, they kind of, solidified a friendship to the point we all went on a family vacation together. So
Okay.
they've been pretty cool since then, which made me happy because, it was like they couldn't be in a room together at
Oh
some point.
yeah, that's bad. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
my mother had a lot of baggage, pain and all that she dealt with and went through with him. And so, so for older people, they just don't want to rock the boat. I do what I want to do. I got my own money. I'm retired. I don't have to answer to nobody. We do, and we do it. And then you go to your corner and I go to my corner. So
Yeah.
you will see that a lot of times with older people that have been married or they're widowed, their first or second wife has passed away, but
Mm-hmm.
they still want to date. They're not getting married. They don't even
Yeah.
want to go through the hassle of dealing with all of that. And so I
Yeah.
do see that quite a bit also. My mother's brother and my auntie had divorced. I'm sorry, they didn't divorce. They separated years ago. He's now deceased, but he got in a relationship with a younger woman. They ended up having a child and stayed together. When my uncle passed away, that child was about 21. But when he got sick, because he was still legally married to my auntie, that lady couldn't make no decisions about
Mm.
his care in the hospital. She tried to come and pick his car up. She couldn't take his car, even though they lived
Wow.
together.
Right.
She had no right to anything,
No legal rights to anything.
no
What is
legal rights to anything. And my auntie made or had to make those decisions.
Was your auntie being was she being petty?
No, she was. She
Okay.
actually wasn't. Her
Okay.
now her son, he was a little angry, and rightfully so, because I think in that situation, that lady's family, they didn't they used my uncle, really, in my opinion. I hate to say
Okay.
those words, but I'm not gonna say the lady didn't love my uncle, but he was definitely older man, number one, and a meal ticket, number two. My uncle had a very longevity job at one of the plants. And her kids, all of her grown kids, and they boyfriend and girlfriend was in the house using his car and crashing his car. So it was a lot of that. So my cousin, his oldest son, once he came here and visited and saw my uncle, his health was failing and nothing was stopping for them. Like they didn't kick in and say, "Hey, let me take care of him. Let me do this. Let me take this off his plate because his health is failing." No, they didn't do that. So that
Mm.
kind of, rightfully so, made my cousin upset because,
Right.
but he couldn't tell his dad. He told him to move in with him down out of state. My uncle didn't want to leave. You know, so it's nothing he could do at that point, and he passed away shortly after that. And so
Okay.
my auntie was not being petty about it though. She knew that she legally, and even when my uncle retired from the plant, guess what? My auntie got 50% of his pension because she had been his legal wife that whole time. That lady got absolutely nothing other
Wow.
than what he took home from it.
What he took
That's it.
home, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I don't understand the dynamics that people have. Um, I do feel that they don't have a belief in the sanctity of marriage now, so they don't even want to get married. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't. But outside of that, a lot of people let their fears prevent them from getting married. But they live
Under that same
in
fear.
these marital situations without the benefits of being a legal spouse,
Right.
which is don't make sense to me. But so many people are comfortable doing that.
Yeah. 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 So what aside from and I'm sure you're going to probably speak to the more of the spiritual aspect of it, what are the benefits of being because we just talked about the benefits you don't have, but what are the benefits of being married to somebody like you? I mean, that you've been shacking up with all this time. What are the benefits? What are some of the the perks of being married? Skipping the financial part, just what are some of the perks? Is that your husband?
Well, to me, yes,
Hey,
yes.
Nick.
Was it him? Hey, hey.
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
I wasn't even. But
To me, I do believe the spiritual sanctity of marriage for sure. To me, it's this person saying that they care enough about me to invest their time, love, and resources in me, and vice versa. I'm
Okay.
not just somebody you hear with today or you hear with for 5 years and then you pick up and go, and I'm left holding a bag. And divorce brings that on too, but you can't just walk away in a marriage without a legal court thing happening there too. So
Right.
you're not going to just easily detach yourself from me because you have to go through a court process. But outside of the negative part of that, it says to a person that you have enough respect, love, and honor for me to put the investment in me as your wife.
Hmm.
Like you want me to bear your name. You want me to be a part of you. When people see you, they see Mr. and Mrs. So it
Right.
brings on all those benefits legally, spiritually, and financially.
Mm.
Those you're making an investment to love this person. With this, you know, a lot of people be like, us, marriage is just the paper. Okay, well, so is that license you got to drive your car. So is that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things people, you know, to me, it's like you get these fleeting little comments about what marriage is, but you take out time to make yourself licensed in all these other areas. Why not invest that same or more effort in the person that you're sleeping with every night, or the person that you are, you know, sharing household expenses with every night?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits in, you know, they say statistically, men who are married live about 20 years longer.
Longer, yeah. That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they say. My uncle used to always tell me that he said him and my aunt, his wife, would say you get so many benefits from being married though. Like the system is set up for married couples. Like it's really designed to assist married couples. The whole system, you know, tax benefits.
Yeah, like tax benefits for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are some corporate entities that recognize domestic partners.
Okay.
And let you insure them, like the plants. I think the big three were the first ones to start doing that.
Okay.
They let you start to insure your domestic partners. So some companies have gotten a lot more relaxed with some stuff like that. But even like years ago, I remember when you had a 401k, you had to put your spouse on there as the beneficiary, like, you know, your spouse. So I don't know if any of that has relaxed or changed, but there are just a lot of benefits of, you know, my godmother who she's 90 years old, but she still has full faculties, working and everything. She's been married legally 4 times. One time she was a child bride, so her dad made her and all that. But 3 adult husbands she's had. And she said to me and my husband about a year or two ago, a good wife makes a good husband, good man. And you know what
you broke up. You broke up. Can you say that part again? You said your aunt said a good woman. Now? Yeah, I can hear you now.
She said a good wife makes a great man. And what I took from that is when you have a woman who loves you and takes care of you, it kind of gives you the sense that you can do anything in life you want to, because you have this woman beside you who's going to hold you up.
Right.
And I agree with that. I see that happening when a man has a good woman in his life holding him up and encouraging him and supporting him. He feels invincible almost, like, you know, she's got his back. Right. And not to say that you have to be a wife to do that, but why invest time in a man that's not your husband to do that? Like, I wouldn't. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to stay with a man 4 or 5 years and not married to him. If you don't know by this time, you're just not going to know.
Yeah, I remember my grandfather, him and my grandmother, he'd been married, I want to say twice. My father, I want to say 4 or 5 times. I didn't want to repeat. I definitely want to go down my father's road with all getting married again. But I remember my granddad said, I didn't know him and my grandmother had such a bad, like he was really, even before he died, and my granddaddy was in his late 70s, early 80s. He was still bitter with my grandmother about how things turned out between him, because he was the type of man, he came home, he gave her his check, but my grandmother was real irresponsible or whatever. But I want to make this quick because we don't have a whole lot of time left. But I remember he told me, he was like, he would never get married again after his second wife. That was a bitter breakup. He was like, he'll just pay somebody, especially if he wanted to have sex. I'll just pay him and I'm done. I was like, okay, granddaddy. But he didn't want to get married again. He was like, he was good on it. But I do thank you so much, because we're kind of short on time. I don't want the thing to cut off on us, but I do thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you still coming on, and I think this is a very important topic, and hopefully some people can glean something from it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. Go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day, Ms. Ramsey, and tell your husband again I said hi. Tell him to get back in the gym. I want to see his name on my appointment books.
I'm signing up today, bro. Today.
All right, great. You guys go ahead and have a blessed day. I'm gonna go and try to get out. Me and my wife gonna try to get out and do something today while it's nice outside.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all have a good one. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
This is another episode of Black Marriage Chronicle. It's funny now. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. This was called The Reluctant Partner. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below.